We were sitting in Hunter Field, Georgia, about 2 months, doing nothing, waiting for our orders. There was 10 crews that graduated from Oklahoma City, and we drew straws to see who was going first, second, third, and fourth. We got the number 10 pull. So as the orders came in, they took off. The planes would come down from Detroit. They made it Willow Run from Detroit and flown down to Savannah. And the crew took it up, swung it, took it for a flight around, check it out to see if everything was working, and then took off for wherever their orders told them to take off. More than half of them went where we went, but some went to Italy, some went to the Pacific. I don't know how they got there, but that's another matter. We drew number 10. It was about January, mid-January before our draw came. Brand new airplane, 44-1944. I got a picture on the porches. That's a number, but that's the model number. People don't realize that the number one airplane of World War II was the B-24. 18,600 B-24s were built. I think B-17s were about 13,000. We carried 8,000 pounds plus. They carried 4,000 pounds plus. We could stay in the air for 14, 15 hours. They can stay in the air for 10, 11 hours. Good airplane. B-17 was a good baby carriage, but it wasn't a workhorse like the 24. Okay, now we finally got our plane about mid-January. I signed for it because my hooper was gone. I don't know where he was that day, but I had to sign for it. The girl delivered it. They had flying whaps for delivering it. And brand new airplane. Next day we took it up for a test run. I swung the compass. The next day we tried to swing the altimeter and check tanks and oil pressures and so on. Everything seemed to be fine. Brand new. Want to make sure nothing's falling off and back, everything seemed to be fine. So we take off. They give us orders in writing. Gave us an envelope. Do not open for 1 hour. Go due east for 1 hour. We go 1 hour due east. And they gave us Arctic clothing. They issued us Arctic clothing. Open the letter and it says, go to Puerto Rico. Southern route. Means go to South America. We go to Puerto Rico, I put them on a course. It was a beautiful trip. I never forget it. I put the plane at 11,000 feet. Reason for that, see, you're not pressurized. There's no such thing as a pressurized airplane. We had oxygen mask. On our crew, we agreed that the Navigator goes on at 10,000, the crew goes on at 12. You don't really need a 10, but the Navigator, because he's got to be thinking and thinking sharp, doesn't want to get any fuzzy in his brain. Just to play safe. I could work at 12,000 without oxygen too if I had to, and I did a few times. And I'm flying. I got it platted. I got the logs still, the original logs. I've got them in the other room. They're kind of rare. And as I'm flying along, I'm looking down, and I see a reef down beneath us, the other side of south of the Bahamas. We're coming down from Savannah. There's a reef there. Underwater. Hey, gee, that's funny. That's pretty. It's underwater. And I'm flying at 10, 11,000 feet. The sun was shining. It's gorgeous. And I fly a little longer, the same reef. And look at my chart, and I see a bunch of little dots on my chart. Air navigation charts don't have all the details that a marine chart does. And a little reef. Dots go right to Puerto Rico. Hope you're on course. I fold my work, go back up in the flight deck. I'm up there listening to the music. He said, aren't you working? I said, yeah. Look down. You see a reef beyond? You're on course. Flew right into Puerto Rico. Underwater reef. We stayed there 3 days. Beautiful there. From there, next stop was Trinidad. Refueled, took off the next day, and flew into a bunch of big thunderheads. And I don't want to be overland into thunderheads because you can't come down in them. So I kept altering out to sea, trying to go around them. After 3 hours of flying around. I'm flying around the outside of South America and flying, and getting around here in 4 hours. I called my pilot. I said, Hooper, if this continues, we're going to run out of gas and we'll be over water. I still got a point of no return ahead of me. The point of no return means that's the thing. You got to turn before that or you're not going to have gas to get back. I said, it is my opinion that we should go back. Abort. He said, they'll raise hell because gasoline was scarce in those days. I said, you want to die? That scared him. I said, you got a chance. I said, let's go back. We went back and they tried to court-martial me there for wasting gasoline. Reports come in the next day. The plane did go down. We sat for 3 days at Trinidad, refueled, took off, the weather cleared up, the broken clouds, no problem. And this time I'm going right over South America. The word must have got out that a wise guy, young navigator, opened his mouth to the board. So a bunch of A-26s, they were the brand new electric A-26, like a B-26, only no navigators on board. They use so-called radar. Heard that they were flying, there were 6 of them flying. They heard that the navigator aborted to save the neck. 3 on this wing and 3 on that wing. They're following us. My pilot's flying around. What the hell are those guys doing? They're going the same place we're going, and they don't want to work. So I'm working for them. Talk to them. So I talked to Interplane. What do you want to know? He says, tell your navigator we're watching him. Boom. We went into Belém, Brazil. It's in the middle of the jungle. It was a military base. Refuel. Stayed overnight. Tell the whole place. Now it's all cleared out. Belém, we refueled, took off, and went to Natal, Brazil. It's at the point, I got it all on the charts there. It's all plotted. Where the South America goes out to a point. And that's where we all, stayed 2 days, we all bought boots. Because when we're going to India, you had to wear heavy shoes or boots so the snakes don't bite you there. So we all bought Natal boots, they are called. I had mine all through the service. I slept in it for many days. And a day later, the next stop is the middle of the South Atlantic is a rock. You ever hear of Ascension Island? You have heard of it? Ascension? Don't go there. It's a rock. They showed us a movie before we took off because it's got a dangerous approach. The face of the runway has got a cliff. And if you come down at a normal approach, the downdraft at the cliff will suck you down. You fly right into the rock, into the cliff. Approach high, and when you hit the runway, don't think you're running out because it's on a mountain. You can't see the other side. You're getting on an upslope, and when you get over the top, then you'll see the rest of it. So don't burn your brakes out. There's no problem. Everybody's living in tents. We ate. Next morning we get up, we're flying. I hit it right on the button, no problem at all. I did a sunline approach as a backup to a radio direction finder. Do 2 things. Actually do 3 because you're doing visual, which doesn't help if you're too far off course. Next trip was Accra, Gold Coast. Accra's got another name now. Gold Coast. And all of a sudden I hear rumbles, the boys in the back all got the runs. Dysentery for the rock. Pilot, co-pilot are talking there. They got running a fever, they don't feel good. As I make my approach on the sunline approach to the south side of Gold Coast, into the runway, and they're both sick. They don't want to fly anymore. They sit there, and I don't care what you say. They had the GIs, they couldn't stop it. We hit the runway. They almost landed on the runway that was being built because they couldn't tell. It's all brown, loaded with black people, and you couldn't see it. Fortunately, when we got down low enough and we were rounding off, we could see the people moving, so they kicked the rudder, so 2 of them. They were half out. They did it and landed on the runway, and they couldn't get them out of the seat. I called for an ambulance to take them out to to the clinic for 3 days. And they got their stomachs cleared out. The other guy, the rest of us had a fever, but we just went to the bathroom, get it out of us. But they were sick. And from across Gold Coast, and choice of Kano or Maiduguri. I asked somebody, well, they got horseback at Maiduguri. Okay. Went to Maiduguri, that's Nigeria, halfway across, part of the way. It's a nothing base, but they did have horses that we could run. We went running horses. I don't know why. From there, the next day we went to Khartoum, which is now Sudan, which was those days was Egypt. Not a bad base. I bought a case of little cans of tomato juice. That used to be my nourishment when I was in the air. And we got out of there. Now I understand it's a very bloody area nowadays. The next stop was over the Red Sea, down into the heel of Persia, which is called Aden Arabia in those days. Today it's something Maharaja there. Dust storm, it was just a hellhole of dust. And then 10 o'clock at night, I took a ride back in the Jeep to check the airplane just for the hell of it, and they were trying to steal the wheels off of it. Blew the whistle, got the crew back at 10:30, back in the airplane, sleep in the plane, and get out of there at 5 o'clock in the morning. Fortunately, we caught before any damage was done. At that point, we flew from there, headed for, there's an island that was just before India that you had as a backup island, but it's the hell with it. Let's go right into Karachi, which is about another 100 miles further. Went right into Karachi and sat there 3 days till they decided what they're going to do with us.